I love Superman. Some people ask me, why do I love Superman so much? And honestly, I think it's because they don't really know who Superman is. And that's what I'm here today to do, to tell you who Superman is. But that's kind of a complicated question, because technically the main continuity Superman has been 4 people over the years. Earth 2/Golden Age Superman. This is the very first Superman. His time in the comics lasted from 1938 to 1955. He worked at the Daily Star and eventually would become the editor-in-chief there. He was a founding member of the JSA. He would eventually discover the multiverse and have many more adventures with our next Superman. Earth 1/Silver Age Superman. His time in the comics lasted from 1956 to 1970. He started off his superhero career early in Smallville as Superboy. He would time travel and join the Legion of Superheroes. He had a team of super pets, a completely different set of wacky superpowers that included super ventriloquism, and he would be the only Superman until
the Crisis on Multiple Earths.
Eventually, the 2 Earths would become aware of each other and have many crossovers and adventures. The Earth 2 Superman would remain mostly retired. They would fight supervillains such as the Crime Syndicate. They would introduce the Earth 2 Supergirl, known as Power Girl, and they would have a handful of adventures on Earth Prime. Superboy Prime. Now, technically he was never the main continuity Superman, but he's so interconnected with these multiple Superman stories, I feel like I have to talk about him. He comes from Earth Prime, which is the real world, where superheroes are just comic book fiction. He was adopted by Jerry and Naomi Kent, and they decided to name him Clark Kent. He was the only superhero of Earth Prime. He would eventually discover the other 2 Supermen and get training from them. Oh, Superboy Prime, you had such promise.
Crisis on Infinite Earths.
The multiverse was being destroyed by the Anti-Monitor. The heroes of the Earths came together to stop him. All Earths were folded into one, and some characters were cosmic leftovers. With no place left to go, Earth 2 Superman, Earth 2 Lois Lane, Superboy Prime, and Alexander Luthor Jr. from a world where Lex Luthor is the good guy, enter a paradise dimension and would not be seen for many years. And I bet you're wondering what happened to Earth 1 Superman. Well, you can read all about it in Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow. They were ending the pre-Crisis books, so they thought to themselves, hey, we're never going to tell the last Superman story, but what if we did? So they got Alan Moore to come in and write the story, where they just treat it like you're saying goodbye to everything that came before, which it was. Alan Moore starts by saying, this is an imaginary story, but aren't they all? So did it happen? Did it not? It's kind of up to interpretation. And what happened to the Man of Tomorrow? Guess you're going to have to go and read it yourself. It's too good, I can't spoil it for you. While Earth 2 Superman was enjoying retirement in a paradise dimension, the world was introduced to post-Crisis Superman. This is the Superman most people know. He's the one who died fighting the Doomsday. Don't worry, he got better. His powers were dialed back to where he wasn't as impossibly powerful. Batman didn't trust him at first. They weren't old chums like they were in the old days. No Krypto, no Legion of Superheroes, no Supergirl, until they reintroduced all those concepts. Infinite Crisis. Our quartet of cosmic leftovers would return when they were unhappy with the state of the current DC universe. Infinite Crisis is a story about toxic nostalgia. Earth 2 Superman thinks that bringing back Earth 2 will fix everything because it's perfect. But a perfect world doesn't need Superman. Superboy Prime would go full-on villain mode after this. He punched reality, which somehow brought Jason Todd back to life, so if you're a fan of Red Hood, you can thank him. He would become a parody of older, cringy DC fans. He would briefly become a Sinestro Corps member. He is the only member of the quartet of cosmic leftovers to survive this story. He murdered Superman of Earth 2 by punching him repeatedly in the face. Oh, Superboy Prime. You had such promise. After Infinite Crisis, the multiverse would return, but post-Crisis Superman would continue to be the main continuity Superman. Superboy Prime would eventually find and return to Earth Prime, but since superheroes are comic book fiction in his world, his friends and family have been reading the stories he appeared in, and are now shocked and afraid of what he's become. He He would then set up shop in his parents' basement, becoming a wall-punching Kyle. Oh, Superboy Prime, you had such promise. Then Flashpoint happened. Flashpoint is a very stupid story that takes years of continuity and throws it in the trash. Flash and Reverse Flash fuck around in the past, and that reboots the entire universe. And this story wasn't even supposed to be a reboot. And if you're wondering what Flashpoint has to do with Superman, remember Post-Crisis Superman, the guy I talked about recently and had a lot of admiration for? He just doesn't exist. Gone in a blink of an eye with no explanation. New 52 Superman. He did not date Lois Lane. He made out with Wonder Woman. The Kents are dead in this continuity. He's what Sad Boy movie Superman is based on. They tried to make Superman Peter Parker, but it doesn't work. Why? Because he's not Peter Parker. You can't shove a Superman-shaped egg in a Spider-Man-shaped hole and expect it to work. If I wanted to read Spider-Man, I'd go read Spider-Man. When someone comes to Superman, they want to read Superman. Truth, justice, and the American way. Doing what's right because it is right. And he would be the only Superman until Convergence happened. Convergence is a very stupid story that no one likes. It implies that all Brainiacs throughout the multiverse are extensions of one guy. He's been stealing bottled cities throughout time and space, resulting in some of these characters meeting each other, going back in time, stopping Crisis on Infinite Earths. I bet you're wondering how they do that. Well, I don't know, because they don't show it. Thank you for going out of your way to tell me one of my favorite stories didn't happen. The end of this story results in a very hand-wavy, wishy-washy explanation saying that everything that ever happened still exists. And the post-crisis Superman, Lois Lane, and their son physically move from their world to the New 52 world. So now there's two Supermen running around. Then New 52 Superman died. Cause of death, a combination of kryptonite poisoning, getting imbued with the fires of apocalypse, and going out in a blaze of glory fighting a solar-powered villain. He said his goodbyes to his loved ones, post-crisis Superman took his place, and at least he went out in the most Superman way possible. Then they merge post-crisis Superman and New 52 Superman. Through an adventure with Mr. Mxyzptlk, the spirits of New 52, Superman and Lois Lane merge with their post-crisis counterparts, so that he was always there. So post-crisis happened, then New 52 happened, and we can all pretend that Convergence didn't happen. I'm sure you're wondering who Mr. Mxyzptlk is. He's a classic Superman villain who is a fifth-dimensional imp who pops into our reality every now and again just to mess with Superman, and the only way to trick him to go back to where he came from is to get him to say his name backwards, which is Kiltipsy-Zim. This is why I love comics, and this is why I hate comics. At the time of this video, this is Superman. Married to Lois Lane, has a bisexual son, member of the Justice League, symbol of hope that we all know and love. And now I'd like to talk about some other Supermen that are important in my very biased opinion. Connor Kent, Superboy. He is a clone using mostly Superman's DNA, but also Lex Luthor's. He started off as a 90s punk and possible replacement for Superman after he died. The first time. He was taken in by the Kents and lived in Smallville. He was a founding member of Young Justice, where he would become best friends with Robin and date Wonder Girl. And Superboy Prime killed him during Infinite Crisis. Don't worry, he got better. Kingdom Come Superman. This is a Superman who's lost his tether to humanity. Some stuff goes down involving Superman losing everyone. Lois, Perry, Jimmy, and everyone else at the Daily Planet. Years later, Wonder Woman tries to take him out of retirement because we need a Superman. Because the world is filled with all these edgy 90s superheroes. And the world's gotten bad. Kansas gets nuked. That's how bad it is. So naturally Superman comes out of retirement and says he's going to fix everything. He's going to bring back a more wholesome era of superheroics. And naturally, all his old buddies join him, and they think he's right. But this is a more complicated issue than you would think. How do you make Superman interesting? Or really any superhero? You give them a problem he can't punch away. He gets guidance at the end from, of all places, a Superman knockoff. Captain Marvel. And it reminds us that Superman is not a god. He's flawed just like you and me. And to me, this is the only time Wonder Woman and Superman's relationship has ever worked. Christopher Reeve's Superman. This is the best adaptation of the character. He's confident, but not cocky. He has some fun, crazy superpowers. The tagline of this movie is right. You will believe a man can fly. Christopher Reeves was involved in an accident that left him paralyzed from the neck down, and he spent the rest of his life trying to bring awareness to those with disabilities until his death in 2004. Now that's something Superman would do. Now, the reason I think that the Donner film's Superman is amazing and the Snyder film's Superman is terrible comes down to their father figures. Now, when Zack Snyder Superman is a young boy, and he saved that school bus full of children, his father is mad at him. And young Clark says, "What should I have done? Let them die?" And his father says, "Maybe." Now, compare that to the Donner film, where a young Clark really wants to join the football team, but his father won't let him. And his father says, "Boy, I don't know why you're here, but it's not to catch footballs." One father said, "Don't save people." The other father said, "You can do better. You can do great things." And that really sums it up. Steel. Real name John Henry Irons. A former weapons engineer turned construction worker. He was inspired by Superman after he saved him from falling off a building. He built an Iron Man-style suit and took up the name Steel after Superman's death because the world still needs a Superman. And they made a movie based on him, starring Shaquille O'Neal. It's exactly what you think it is. Superman speeding bullets. What if Superman was Batman? Superman's rocket lands in Gotham City, and he is adopted by the Waynes, and is named Bruce Wayne. Bruce's parents die the exact same way, but little Bruce laser visions Joe Chill and kills him. And naturally he is traumatized by this experience, but in a different way, because the bullets wouldn't have bounced off the Bruce Wayne you and I know. Years later, he becomes Batman, but it's just not a good fit. And at the end of the story, he becomes Superman. DCAU Superman. This Superman still needed to breathe air, and used special suits to breathe underwater and in space. He's still active into the Batman Beyond future. He was not universally trusted. This is the only time the Superman-Darkseid feud works, in my opinion. He was played by a different actor in each show, but you still get the impression it's the same guy. He's a perfect, distilled Superman. So let's finally answer that question. Who is Superman? It's not the power that makes him super. Superman does the right thing simply because it is the right thing to do. He's the kind of hero that will fight cosmic horrors, walk an old lady across the street, and talk a suicide jumper down. Superman inspires those around him. Superman cares about saving as many lives as possible, including the life of the villain. Superman always told me I could. He never told me I couldn't. Recommended reading time. If you want to read a good version of Superman's origin, read Superman's Secret Origin. If you want to have a fun adventure with Superman and Batman, read Superman, Batman, Public Enemies. And for one of my favorite stories involving a problem Superman can't punch away, read Kingdom Come. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you learned something. And in the words of Jim Croce, you don't tug on Superman's cape. Steel. Real name... I was about to say real name Shaquille O'Neal. That's why I goofed. Okay.
That's okay.
Oh god, that's going to be an end blooper. And they made a movie about him starring Shaquille O'Neal. It's exactly what you think it is.
It's Shaq-tastic.
He's about to open up a can of Shaq Fu. Oh, I feel like I do want to make a Shaq Fu joke.
No, you don't want to get balled up in Shaq Fu because anything Fu is...
I'm not making that up. There's a video game called Shaq Fu.
Oh, good.
Like, he put his name on that.
Yay!
That's why I'm referencing it.
Okay.
That's actually a rare game because people used to find it and destroy it. There was a website dedicated to finding every copy of this game and destroying it.
Oh. Alright, we're still recording.
Getting the sillies out.